content ratio goes down pretty significantly. So when it comes to airlines, about half of the content is not machine readable. And that becomes a huge opportunity for them to think about, how do we differentiate? How do we improve our machine readability so we get served up as an option to the user as they're planning their trip versus someone else? So the key piece here becomes improving machine readability through structured content, leveraging AI visibility tools so that you can ensure that you're getting the best machine readability optimization, so that you can drive and enjoy the fact that your brand is showing up on multiple fronts with these AI platforms. When we dive deeper and we look at trust, loyalty, you think about airline points, all these important types of pages are now new surface areas to really enjoy visibility across the AI platforms. We're not just viewing them as sort of help service content, buried deep into your site experience. This is now being captured by these AI agents and provided as valuable information to users in an aggregate fashion. So it's important that this content also be optimized well. Again, we see car rentals doing pretty well, hotels, but we see airlines lagging. We see improvement for cruises as well. So even though we do see a strong performance across some of these sub-industries in some of these types of content pages, there's still a lot of opportunity for different players to kind of break away from the pack. When we think about this whole trajectory, 20 years ago, it was about SEO. 10 years ago, it was about social. Now it's about GEO. So the opportunity is pretty profound in terms of what can be done here to optimize. With that, I'll hand it over to Julie.
Thank you, Vivek, for sharing the most recent insights that are creating pressure for the travel funnel. To compound these challenges, the bar is even higher for omni-channel experiences. So the new bar is 8. Brands need to deliver 8 meaningful interactions prior to a purchase. So this has gone up from 6.4 less than 18 months ago. So on average, these travelers are consuming more reviews and testimonials, and 92% of travel brands expect that mobile-first experiences matter. And they do. I don't want to say mobile doesn't matter. However, Gen AI referral engines are changing this dynamic. So yes, travelers still use mobile, but 74% of brands shared that customers want omni-channel consistency. And this is really vital. So I can't emphasize this enough. It's probably one of the most critical aspects of our conversation today. When travelers visit Gen AI referral engines, all of the insights you're hearing from Vivek, they are more likely to arrive from desktop. And travelers switch channels. So for example, a lot of travelers will basically start on mobile and book on desktop. That's very much the case for airlines in particular. So if your brand is unable to connect the data and deliver the experience cross-channel, you're basically missing out on the ability to scale those experiences and to even track performance on what works. So that's one of the key things. Now, the flip side too is that only 13% of brands will be able to deliver an omni-channel experience by 2027. And telling the brand story requires that capability of orchestration. So when we look at this, kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, the capabilities, where are they today? And the reason for this, it's not, when we looked across brands, the real gap isn't just the data. Again, it's the orchestration. And you can kind of see on the far right, the 95% of customer data is partially integrated or siloed and, accessible, but not in the way it should be. And then while most brands are still working to connect the data, only about 13% will actually be able to orchestrate the journeys by the end of this year. So those brands who are able to do that have an advantage. And even fewer can deliver on the next best action, which is, again, that contextually where experiences that travelers want. So that's the opportunity. The second piece here, or the second unlock, I would say, moves beyond orchestration to content. So local property teams basically hold the knowledge that no corporate team can actually replicate. The neighborhood shortcuts, the dietary friendly restaurant, the book in advance tip, in order to, take advantage of an experience. And historically, a lot of that knowledge lived through in-person guest interaction. Now, travelers expect to find it digitally and often before they even book. Again, that's the Gen AI referral engines like ChatGPT and Perplexity, which rewards specific, authentic, locally sourced answers over generic brand copy. So the challenge for a franchisor is scale. You can't have corporate writing 500 property level guides and having those be meaningful. And you also can't let 500 properties publish unvetted content either. And in many cases, this is thousands, anywhere, 4,200 to, 9,000, lots and lots of franchisee and property teams. So this example is basically showing a Maui host. And in this instance, it's a frontline team member who creates a location guide, and it's grounded in local expertise. And they're able to submit this through a lightweight approval flow. And then the franchisor basically maintains that brand and quality control without being the bottleneck on authenticity. And this is very much what travelers want. Now, leaders, to reinforce how brands scale effectively leveraging AI, they operate differently than non-leaders. So when we look at the differential here, leaders very much focus on structure and workflows, and they index 62% higher than non-leaders. So what does this do? This actually gives team the needed autonomy to move fast. They create enough structure and workflows to basically mitigate this distortion that's happening from AI. This helps keep teams agile and moving fast. When AI comes into the picture, you're offloading about half of someone's work. That is very disorientating. So without that structure, teams oftentimes flounder. And when we look at the modernization playbook, so again, this is recent research. We haven't published it yet. We are in the process of this. There are 5 things that leaders do differently. The biggest takeaway is that leaders don't beat out non-leaders through tech alone. They build structure to manage the cultural shift with AI, which provides the governance to, again, allow those teams to work autonomously, and they can move much faster. And I've heard this from many very large brands in the space. The other 5 factors, so real ownership. Leaders identify a formal AI owner, and this also usually comes with a completely new org structure to maintain that autonomy. They start with day one measurement. So leaders are 4.4x times more likely to plan for measurement day one. They also look at genuine partnerships. So they engage the entire ecosystem. So leaders look to collaborate, and they use their full ecosystem to make sure that they're being effective. The learning culture is interesting. So leaders focus on pivoting the culture for a fail fast approach. And the leaders actually only made up about 1% of respondents. In essence, they keep failing with AI to improve the performance and get to a place of excellence. And again, that is what we're seeing in terms of like a cultural change. And then last, empower champions. So leaders identify champions early within the org and then assign them roles to bring the company forward. So think of it as basically like splicing them in, but then also being guided oftentimes by outside support. So next up, we have Kia Kiander from Choice Hotels, but let's take a quick spin of a reel showcasing their journey.
When you stay with Choice Hotels, you get more of what you value. Like this family, who saved a Comfort Inn and splurged on matching fits for line dancing. Nice moves. Or this group, who value spending their extra green on the green. Whoa, still going. Or at the Cambria Hotel, where these co-workers team bonded for life. Those are temporary, right? Book direct at choicehotels.com.
All right, and now it's my great pleasure to have Kia Kiander join us to share her personal success leading Choice Hotels.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. My name is Kia Kiander. I'm the Senior Manager for Marketing and Digital Platforms in our international division at Choice Hotels. I've been with Choice for 9 years through lots of projects and content roles, and it's been an exciting journey. So thank you for having me here to talk to the audience today. I don't think I need to repeat a lot of what has been said by the research and the behavioral change. A lot has changed in the world recently, and it keeps on changing, and we don't really know where things are going. But I think the one thing that really hasn't changed for Choice Hotels is our goal. And our goal is helping travelers find the right hotel for their stay, whether they're looking for a family vacation, a business trip, quick overnight stay, whatever it is. But that dramatic change in the customer journey that once upon a time was linear, go on a brand website, book a hotel, it doesn't exist anymore. It's a constant journey. There's so many places customers are going to look for information. They're constant consideration mode, like we've seen from all the data here. So for us, the challenge really now is how can we deliver an accurate, relevant, and consistency is key, experiences across that growing ecosystem when we're operating at enterprise scale.
So quick question, Kia. Since discovery now spans Google, social, and LLMs, what does that shift mean for how you think about content strategy at Choice Hotels?
I think from a strategic point of view, one of the biggest learnings we've had is actually that content operations is a strategic capability. Because if you don't have structure, you really can't have scale. And it doesn't sound very exciting, but the fact is you need to have the structure, the basics, before you can get the benefits of all the AI hype that is going on right now. And which kind of takes us to our challenge. That is Choice Hotels. We support 22 different brands across 22 brands, 7,500 hotels in about 46 countries and territories. So with that kind of scale, there comes a lot of complexity. We have a lot of different teams who need to move quickly. Content needs to stay current. And importantly, our customers are expecting the experience to be the same regardless of what channel they're going to engage us on. So a few years ago, we really started to think about how do we create a stronger foundation for managing content more efficiently. And again, like this is a bit of a boring topic when you talk about foundations and structure, but that really is the core for getting any of the other things done. For us, the goal wasn't just about publishing more content. It was about how do we get our teams to work more smart, and how do we deliver that constant consumer experience across all of our countries, languages, channels, etc. And I really think as the customer expectations are just growing exponentially right now, speed, governance, and scalability are becoming just as important as creativity is.
So I love you highlight structure, and because it is, one of the biggest aspects of like more structure creates agility and autonomy. So getting buy-in across 22 brands was already basically a lift. It's, I can't imagine. And then you're doing it now across US and international teams at the same time, which really is raising the stakes. So can you tell us what was the hardest part of scaling both dimensions at once?
So, well, I mean, full disclosure, I'm from our international, aka non-US business, so I'm going to have a global answer. But Choice Hotels is a US company originally. So out of those 7,500 hotels, 6,000 are in the US. So we were already used to supporting multiple brands, but then with the growth of the international business, I think for us, the bigger challenge was that going from a US first mindset into a global first. So I think that was the bigger challenge for us where we were on that journey. And talking about that journey, the transformation we've gone over the last few years, we started from a position of focusing on how do we move from our siloed sites and processes to an actual connected global ecosystem. And we did that with Adobe Experience Manager and more recently with Workfront. And we really kind of used that opportunity to move from a US first to a global first strategy and building those platforms with that strategy in mind, and then building our processes to support that. And this has really enabled all of our teams to manage content more efficiently, reuse assets, and it's really allowed us to streamline our workflows. And on top of that, right now, we've also shifted our mindset from creating individual assets for each campaign or each destination, for each channel, to looking at how do we build once and scale. For us, that could look like destination content. We create various formats of content about a single destination, but in a single place, and we translate it. So then we have a single place to go to. If we need to update it, we do it once, translate, and we can just leave it. And I think all of these improvements have really helped us create a greater consistency, but also given our teams the flexibility to support the different brands, the markets, the languages, and the business needs that do vary. At the end of the day, it's really about reducing friction, both for our internal teams, but also importantly for customers. Because when our teams are working efficiently in the back end, the customers are seeing that timely, relevant, and accurate experience coming to life, regardless of what channel they're interacting on.
So I always like to live a day in the life. So what did build once and scale mean day to day? Because we know that, day to day, there's like that undercurrent of work that happens. So what actually changed first?
Well, on the bigger scale, what we changed first was actually a platform. I would always change your process first, then your technology. But we were in a roadmap where we were able to do the technology, but we built it with that strategy. And then we're really starting to look at how do we now operate this tool that we have in place. Using the destination content example is a real case that we have. We had to create content for hundreds and hundreds of destinations around the world. And we didn't just do it, it was for a single use case, but we didn't want to solve one thing. We're thinking, how do we build this in a way that it can be used anywhere in the future? How can we can also add into it? And everything that we now do, we're going with that mindset. Okay, we're creating this here, but what else can it serve? And how can we make it easy to scale and use and not keep going back or repeating this cycle? And I got this far without really talking about AI too much. But like many organizations, we're still learning how is AI really going to reshape our business and the world, because it is constantly changing. But what is becoming increasingly clear, and is clear from all the data you shared, is AI is changing how customers are discovering content, but it is also changing how we're creating it. So from the kind of content internal side, AI is really helping us to develop and refine content more efficiently. And that allows us to meet that growing demand for the amount of content without sacrificing the quality. So AI is really helping us accelerate parts of that process, but we have our teams there to continue to provide the strategy, oversight, the brand expertise to ensure that the content is accurate, relevant, interesting for the people who are traveling. And with AEM, that's actually giving us the ability to rapidly publish and distribute that content. And then on the flip side, how are customers finding us? Like you've talked about as well. Historically, we optimize content mainly how are people reading it on our website or whatever channel they were on. Now we need to think about how is it structured and discoverable and useful for AI-powered search as well. So I think for that reason, all the investments we made in content governance, reusable content, scalable processes, it's becoming even more and more valuable as we go, because that strong content foundation is helping us today on being more efficient, but it's also preparing us for whatever comes next. We don't know what comes tomorrow, how things will evolve. So I think for us, AI readiness is not about like every new capability that's out there. It's about combining trusted content, responsible use of AI, and scalable technology, and really understanding that customer journey as it is evolving so we can meet those expectations as things change.
Yeah, I think it's funny because governance is one of the most critical pieces, but it's not very fun as a topic, but it does help. So one of the things that I'm curious about is, are you seeing real traffic or bookings from LLM driven discovery yet, or is it still kind of a get ready phase?
I'd say like all the trends we've seen here, especially like we said for travel, it is true for us as well. I mean, can't share details because of a corporate answer, but the trends are the trend. It is the same trends that we are saying. Things are growing, and we've been doing a lot of things to figure out what's going to work, trial small, and then how do we scale up. But we are seeing the same trends happening in reality. And I think just if I could leave the audience with one thing, even though it's not the exciting part, but really start by looking at your content foundation. Like really understand, where does your content live? Who owns it? How is it governed? And is it set up in a way that can be scaled up? And don't think about AI as a separate initiative that somebody somewhere else is doing. It really just embed that into everything that you're doing. I think the organization that will benefit most from AI is not the ones who are going to move the fastest and do things. It's the ones who are really building that foundation for tomorrow. At least for us at Choice Hotels, that's how we're approaching this next chapter of customer experience and digital engagement as it continues to change.
So, before you leave, on this note, for those starting this journey, what would you say is the payoff of getting the content foundation right?
I'd say the payoff is actually being able to keep up and be in the game, because if you don't have your base, sooner or later it's going to come back and bite you, because the house of cards will tumble because you keep adding to it and try and do things. And especially the amount of content that is out in the world, it's not consumed by people, it's consumed by the LLMs who are going to read it. They're going to catch you out. If you don't have that consistency and foundation, it's just critical to have this in place. As unexciting as it sounds, if you don't have it, it's going to come back at you.
Thank you so much, Kia. I appreciate it. So I'm actually going to close out with a couple of additional examples, one from cruise and one from airline, just kind of thinking through the situation that we're seeing. So there was a cruise brand that had been marketing basically the same way since 1999. One message blasted to every guest, every channel. And, very much a guest could be browsing an $800 inside cabin while another guest is browsing a suite that's valued at over 5,000, and they would receive the identical email as well as any other communications, regardless of that behavior. So one of the solutions that they did is they actually rebuilt everything from the ground up. They cleaned up and unified the data, again, which is not fun, but really important. They added a real-time guest profile and AI-driven decisioning to serve the right offer to the right guest. Now, the result from this, they had a 3x conversion in that high-value segment, a 4x engagement overall, and 0 increase in opt-outs. So same guests, but they were just finally being listened to with a contextually aware journey, which we talked about earlier. Like, this is one of the most critically things to do, is how do you make it more contextually aware for that traveler? Now, the next one is really kind of doubles down on the orchestration and the cross-channel shifts that we're seeing. So this was an airline. They had a loyalty member, let's say, browsing a flight to a destination. I'll take Tokyo. They don't book, but they come back to the homepage later, again, switching from mobile to desktop. And what do they see? They see a generic banner. So that was the situation. They had a missed moment. Now, the challenge was for them is, this is a cross-channel problem, and every airline fights this. So most browsing happens on mobile. It's like 70+%, but most revenue books on desktop. It's like 70%. So they're flipping between those two channels. And so you're basically personalizing for nothing if you can't connect the dots. So the solution here was they unified their profiles in real time with CTP, and then they used precision segmentation so that the next homepage visit served a hero banner that personalized that exact destination. And it basically was dynamically pulling the airport code, which was key to the actual loyalty member and not just the browser or the device. So the result was they had a 50% higher engagement. They saw 3x revenue per impression and a roughly 45 million in incremental revenue in the first 7 months. It was about $1 million a week. Again, this is one personalization use case on 2 surfaces, basically switching from mobile to desktop and being able to close the gap and make that contextual awareness real. So now improving brand visibility really matters, even more so, right, with Gen AI referral engines disrupting that discovery process. So with that, I'm going to head and invite Karthik to join us. He's going to unpack this topic and share with us how we solve in the travel industry with a demo on Adobe brand visibility. Take it away.
Thank you, Julie. So nice to meet everyone. My name is Karthik. I lead product marketing and strategy for our agentic web solutions here at Adobe. Exciting topic around Adobe brand visibility, and really looking forward to sharing what we have with this new product we're introducing into the market. But first, when we think about this challenge around AI visibility and what we're seeing brands deal with today, and Kia had some great insight into how Choice Hotels is thinking about this, and how they're looking at the future landscape. Really, what we're seeing brands need is a solution that can now take them from insight to action, to actual action, for both the agentic audiences that are now becoming an increasing source of traffic, but also the human audiences that you still need to deliver really rich and differentiated experiences for. And we're moving past the idea that, okay, the discovery landscape has changed. It's now really around how do brands take that action, and what is that end-to-end GEO strategy they need. And we believe that it first starts with discovery. So understanding what are the key prompts, what are the key topics that matter to your business, that are relevant, that your competitors may be faring better than you are, or opportunities that you need to really be capturing. How do you first identify what that universe of topics and prompts are, and making sure you're tracking the correct set of things for your business? But then it's really about, now, once you have that defined universe, how is your brand showing up relative to competitors? How are your web experiences showing up? Is your content actually accessible by the agents, by this agentic traffic? Are they getting the information they need? And is that resulting in how you want to be represented in these LLM services? But then ultimately, the hardest part is really taking that next leap into what can you actually do about it? What is the action you can take? And as we know in this space around AI visibility, action can mean a lot of different things. It can mean adding new content to your website. It could mean actions you need to take across PR and social teams, because as we know, your representation in these LLMs is being influenced across the kind of the web, whether it's your own content or content that you don't own. And then ultimately, how do you make sure that the content you create and the actions you take can be serviced to these agents and can be serviced in a way that makes sense for those agentic audiences who love structured content, who need that certain structure behind your experiences, but also preserve that brand differentiation that you're delivering to your human visitors that you want to create lifelong relationships with. And then ultimately, how do you take all that and measure it, connect all the actions you're taking to business outcomes, and really understand what is this actually driving for a business in terms of revenue or impact? So this is that end-to-end strategy we believe every brand is looking for and really needs to win in this space. And that's where we've introduced a new solution called Adobe Brand Visibility. That this is really, when you think about the acquisition of SEMrush we made just a couple of months ago, this is now bringing the rich capabilities from SEMrush, plus what we've already been building here at Adobe, to deliver an end-to-end platform that helps brands win in this space of AI visibility. By unifying intelligence around your own data, but also market and competitive intelligence with optimization capabilities that can be deployed directly from the tool, and then connecting it all to business impact. And what this effectively looks like is when you think about what the SEMrush data and the SEMrush capabilities bring for us, it is those external signals around the market. As a legacy SEO player and with significant GEO experience as well, really bringing in the understanding of what is that total universe of prompts that customers are asking today. They have over 300 million prompt library that we can tap into that provides the whole breadth of topics that are being possibly asked about your brand or about the category you care about. We can connect that with what we have today already with agentic traffic insights. What that is we can look at your own properties, specifically the CDN logs, and identify what pages, what content are more valuable to the LLMs. Where are they looking to get more information from? Where are they potentially getting blocked? And bringing in that own property insight. When you combine that with that market intelligence data, we now have a signal layer that allows you to identify all the opportunities and strategic actions you should be taking to really help you improve in this space. And that translates then into the set of optimizations we can start to deliver from the tool. When we talk about optimizations, this is both at the edge, which is how do you deliver a version of an experience just for the agents that they can see that doesn't disrupt your original content, but also at the source. If you do want to make wholesale changes to your web experience, or you do want to add new content, how do we make sure you can optimize that as well with a click of a button? And ultimately, all of this tying back to those measurable business outcomes and making sure that anytime you do an optimization, we can show you the impact of the lift it has on the KPIs you're tracking and the ultimate kind of how it ladders back to revenue overall. So that I'd like to actually show you a demo of how this looks like in practice and all the cool capabilities we're introducing with Adobe Brand Visibility and what this end-to-end platform looks like. So we'll pull. The visibility overview gives us an immediate baseline of our AI presence across markets and models. Now, this is powered by SEMrush's massive AI prompt data, which leverages real user demand, millions of actual prompts and topics people are asking LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, and others. And here we see that Adobe is associated with more than 3.7 billion monthly audience opportunities across AI conversations worldwide. This is telling us the size of the demand and how effective we actually are at capturing it. And here you can see the list of performing prompts and topics, opportunities, brands, pages, and more. Now, prompt research helps us identify and understand the size and shape of the real demand around any topic relevant to their business. So for example, should I invest in the AI image generator topic? We can immediately see thousands of related topics and tens of thousands of associated prompts. This helps us quantify the total demand around the topic, and we can even start to break it down into the different types of intent based on what the users are looking for. Now, we can also start to compare how Adobe is doing against others in the market. We can see where Adobe is winning
where others are gaining ground, and start to break it down at the topic level, prompt level, and more. So this helps you identify how you're doing against your different competitors. Now, one of the things that's important to note that is in LLM optimization tools today, brands can track relevant prompts and topics, for example, AI image generator. But they also need to know whether their prompt strategy is actually aligned with the market. This is where Adobe Brand Visibility continuously evaluates the health of a brand's prompt strategy. Using AI, it identifies and prioritizes the highest impact recommendations and helps surface any strategic gaps. So instead of manually analyzing thousands of prompts and topics, marketers can get a prioritized roadmap focused on the opportunities most likely to improve AI visibility. For example, we can start to identify things like hidden wins, where we're performing well currently, but it's important to continue to invest so we maintain the lead over our competition. Or we can highlight potential coverage gaps, areas in which we're trailing our competitors in mentions and citations, and we may need to invest more in content or different fixes. Now, insights are only valuable if they actually drive action. So this is where Adobe Brand Visibility automatically generates prioritized opportunities both on-site and off-site to help brands improve their visibility in AI experiences. Examples of these opportunities look like things like simplify complex content, add LLM-friendly summaries, add relevant FAQs. Now, these changes can actually be deployed with the click of a single button. And what it does is it pre-renders a version of a page with this fix that only the agents can see. What this means is the experience you deliver to your human visitors can be preserved, and you can deliver a version of the page that'll help you get better visibility and better content out to the agents. Now, with Opportunity Workspace, teams can turn optimization strategy into execution. They can assign work, they can track progress, and collaborate around the specific prompts, topics, and visibility gaps they're targeting. This is where Adobe Brand Visibility closes the loop. Let's take the second strategy, for example, and a set of given opportunities. Once the strategy is complete and the optimizations have been deployed, brand visibility automatically measures improvement. So we can correlate changes directly to the optimization work that was performed. Now, what we can also start to see is referral traffic. And based on all the traffic that's coming back from the LLMs to your own property, what is happening? And here, because it's integrated with Adobe CX Analytics, we can go one step further and actually connect AI visibility to downstream business outcomes like traffic, engagement, conversion, and ultimately revenue. This is the ROI proof that marketing leaders are looking for. And so there you have it, Adobe Brand Visibility. It's a complete system with market intelligence, optimization, and measurement to drive brand visibility ROI.
Great. And hopefully that gives you good insight into how Adobe Brand Visibility works end to end, starting from identifying the key set of topics you need to care about, doing the optimizations, and ultimately measuring the business impact. So that, I'd like to turn it over to Tori to talk about AEM Sites Optimizer.
Terrific. Thanks, Karthik. What a terrific discussion so far. Hello, my name's Tori Brunker, and I lead Adobe.com for Business. We've heard a lot about brand visibility already, like our new brand visibility product that Karthik just covered. You also heard from Vivek that readability is a critical area and an opportunity for many portions of the travel industry. Continuing on these themes, I want to share Adobe Experience Manager Sites Optimizer. It's an incredibly powerful tool to help you ensure that your owned website is ready 24/7 for the brand visibility race with a leg up. AEM Sites Optimizer is a cloud-based AI-first optimization layer for Adobe Experience Manager sites websites. It continuously finds issues on your live sites like readability and content gaps. It turns them into prioritized opportunities, generates prescriptive fixes, and when configured, can actually deploy those fixes back through AEM authoring or other code workflows. I love talking about this tool because it has driven some incredible results for Adobe.com. We actually saw a few metrics increase that we weren't expecting, like Our time on site increased by 50 seconds on average per visitor once we started using this tool, and our repeat visitors rose by 14%. We did, of course, expect to see an increase in brand visibility, but 200% well exceeded our expectations. And we're also seeing a 41% increase in referral traffic. So let me show you the tool in action. Adobe Experience Manager Sites Optimizer is your command center for identifying and fixing high-impact web issues. At a glance, you'll see exactly what matters: site health, visitor engagement, performance metrics, and compliance status. Here, 26 optimization opportunities are waiting to be deployed. Every opportunity is categorized by impact type: traffic acquisition, engagement, performance, security, compliance. You prioritize what matters most to your business. Each opportunity shows when it was last identified and how many issues exist. Let's focus on traffic acquisition. This filter reveals 6 specific areas where you can drive more visitors. The recent data shows a 15.5% increase in page views over the last month. These optimizations will help you build on that momentum. Each opportunity includes context, the number of affected issues, relevant tags, and a quick action button to review and deploy the fix. Drilling into the page level data with the Site Health Monitor, you see exactly where performance is lagging. This site has strong fundamentals, 97 out of 100 health score, but load time is trending slower, down 12% week on week. You need to know which pages are the culprit. By focusing on your highest traffic pages first, you can maximize the impact of every fix. Every metric is tracked continuously: performance, accessibility, SEO, content completeness. Sites Optimizer audits it all, and the interface makes it very easy to spot what's working and what needs immediate attention. Let's head over to the Opportunities tab, which gives you a complete snapshot of the 6 opportunities and recommended fixes that I mentioned earlier. All of this data flows into automated reports. Weekly traffic reports, accessibility audits, compliance summaries, generated on your schedule and ready to share with leadership. Sites Optimizer doesn't just identify problems, it gives you the data and documentation to drive change.
Thank you, Tori, very much for that wrap on AEM Sites Optimizer. Thank you so much. All right, so it's been a pleasure to have everyone today. We're going to go ahead and look at the questions that have come up into the chat, and we'll bring everybody online and answer a few of those questions. So here we have everyone: Vivek, Tori, Kia, and Karthik. Wonderful. Again, it's a pleasure to have everyone today. So I'm going to start off with Kia. You are very popular in the chat with a lot of questions that folks would like you to answer. So let's start with, please give an example of a governance policy that supports success in AI search.
I think best answer I give, the best practices matter. Like, don't go chasing after every trend or thing that somebody says might be working for AI search. Because what we do is we research, we test something, validate that something will have an impact, and then we're going to scale up. Because if you're chasing after everything, you're going to maybe get success somewhere, but how are you going to scale it up and how do you measure that? So I think that's for us, having the best practices and a framework around how we go about trying new things is important.
Okay. Tori, is traditional SEO still important?
Absolutely. SEO foundations remain critical for trust signals in AI, but of course the game now is brand visibility. And so you really have to reinforce your narrative consistently across all of the digital channels. But it's not SEO versus AI search. It's really kind of SEO evolved into a cross-functional discipline that serves both. In fact, brands that actually unify their SEO and AI visibility into one discipline see about an 81% gain in traffic. But those that are managing them separately only hit about 36%. So really important to unify those two things together.
That just kind of reinforces the organizational structure. So this next question, Karthik, it's kind of a chicken and the egg aspect. So the trick to successful hyper-personalized content is for the content to have a custom-made look. And so this person shared that's their take. So what does Adobe feel are characteristics and attributes of successful hyper-personalized content? And I feel that you might be good to answer this because in essence, it kind of depends on what are the topics that matter.
Yes, exactly. So I think we think about hyper personalized content. It's a couple different things. One is you have to have the context of the user behavior. So ultimately, what their journey has been up until this point, and are you reflecting what they are looking for, the things that they care about. But there's also that external signal that you mentioned, Julie, in terms of what is the content that matters right now. Like what are those trending topics, the things that are of utmost important in the market at the moment that that the consumer might actually care about, and you want to make sure that you're addressing as well. So taking that your own data and understanding of how that visitor behavior is, but also what those external signals are, become really important in truly delivering a hyper personalized experience.
Yeah, who knew ranch was going to take off, right?
Yeah.
All right, Vivek. So, how do brands think about measurement, like the impact of those actions, and when you make a change, how do you actually measure return?
Yeah, so I think, Karthik and Tori did a great job of showcasing measurement tools, being able to really understand the incremental value your efforts are driving stronger growth, ensuring that return is there. When we looked at the aggregate data, and one of the things I was calling out was many of these metrics are metrics that people have invested a lot in over the years to improve, and we've already seen AI traffic really surge across, driving gains on bounce rates, on time on site. So you are seeing returns like that. The conversion rate has improved. We're seeing revenue per visit up. So those things are already happening, and the opportunity now becomes how this return scales over the years to come. We had a long time horizon of different channels coming into their own, like search, organic and paid, social. So it really becomes a factor of putting the measurement tools in place to track where things are right now and setting the foundation for what they'll look like 5, 10 years from now.
Yeah, it feels to me very much like a big overhaul. Kia, another question for you, and I think this is always a common consideration is like, where does someone start? How do they build? How do they manage citations? How do they prioritize? I think in essence, what was your journey? Where did you start?
I think, like I said, our journey was the foundational thing where we look at where our content was, and our content was very siloed just for a website alone, and remind all the other channels. So we've gone through let's create that content repository, have a content management system that can then scale up. So we have the goal is a single source of truth, because then that helps you scale up. That helps you understand what are you even saying about your brand and what that is. So for us, that was really where we started. Yes, we're looking at all the citations and all of that with our team, but for our journey is that key is where is the content? What is your source of truth? Who owns that? And so making sure we can spreading the right message, having the right brand message, saying the correct things, because we're selling hotels. We need to have the right data, the right information to tell people, because they need to know what to expect when they arrive at a hotel.
Yeah, it's hard because when you actually start to unpack it, you're like, content's everywhere. It's all over the organization in different places, and consolidating those processes. I think I heard from several brands where they said, we had a multitude of processes, and a lot of them weren't even documented, and they had no idea how certain things were being actioned or published. So that was kind of an unpacking. There's a question I'll take. How to operationalize. So how are brands changing their org structure to include a chief AI officer, cross-functional alignment, budget? What are the things around that? So we are seeing a change structurally. And we see that the most success happens when a brand basically has an owner who has not only authority, but also has budgetary ownership. But then it is a cross-functional dotted line across the org to different BUs to make sure that, again, collaboratively, the entire team is working together. It needs some structure and it needs a leader, but it also needs to be cascaded across the entire org because it is a huge overhaul foundationally. And with that, I am going to showcase some resources for folks. I want to thank everyone who's joined us because we're at time. So looking at the overview here. So, we've covered quite a bit, but we have also got some helpful resources that we'll send out to you after this session. So check them out if you're interested in learning more about anything that we've covered. And don't forget that you can see all of what this looks like on your own use cases with a custom demo. Just reach out in the widget on the right, and we'll help you with that piece. Again, quite a few resources we're going to be providing to you. And I just really want to thank you again for your time. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you join us. I want to thank all the great speakers, and thanks again for the audience for participating. I know that I'm getting a free lunch soon from Vivek, which is fantastic. So again, everyone, have a great day.